Welcome back to episode 45 of the Epoch podcast. Here again, making some content for you after our long hiatus waiting for the 1.1 patch. With you as always, I guess let's do me first. I am PerryThePig. Welcome. I'm your host. With me as always is my co-host here, Dread. Welcome back. Glad to have you here.
Hello, this is Dread, and after a long hiatus, we've been waiting to actually bump up the podcast again because 1.1 was delayed, but this time around we have a special guest. Go ahead and introduce yourself, Frozen.
Hello, it's Frozen, and I will be your moderator for this evening.
Moderator.
Oh God, it's too topical. We just had the presidential debate last night. In any case, so today is June 28th. We have approximately a week and a half until the 1.1 patch drops. And some clerical stuff before we get started here. You all know that Twitch drops will be going on for the first 6 days of 1.1. So you could watch any of us. You could watch your favorite content creators. You can be doing all that. If you don't have Last Epoch for some reason, or you're trying to get your buddies into it, remember that it's currently on sale at the summer Steam sale for 20% off. That same sale, that same discount is available on the Nexus store if you're doing Nexus related stuff, supporting some content creator out there like us. So with that said, we have a whole bunch of spoilers, not quite patch notes, we're still waiting on that, but a bunch of spoilers going into 1.1. We have some pinnacle boss fights to talk about. We have a small handful of unique items, including one that literally just got spoiled earlier today on the Dead stream. World Ender, the new unique two-ended axe. But before we get into that, I want to learn more about FrozenSentinel. I've watched a couple of videos. I know I've talked to you a couple times now, but if someone's new to your kind of content, Frozen, what's the pitch that you would give to them?
I guess I would just say my content is like whatever I'm currently obsessing on, and I just dig into that like way further than anybody probably should or is even healthy. So in the cycle 1.0, that was COF. So I made a bunch of COF content. I dug into all that stuff, made a bunch of spreadsheets, calculated the efficiency of various things. And that was pretty much it. And then Rune Master pushing because it was balanced.
So are you someone who rerolls to a different character every 5 days or so? Or are you like one character for 3 months?
I think I probably have over 500 hours in my Rune Master.
I think I knew the answer to that question, but I wanted to set that one up for you so that people got a feeling for what kind of
Usually
stuff
how I introduce Frozen is a while back when 1.0 dropped, I was harassing Perry to make COF content, but then instead of Perry making COF content for the COF gamers, because I play COF, therefore I have no gear, obviously. Frozen came out of the blue and started making COF content and saved me a lot of time and effort so I could just focus on what I like to do, which is work on builds, so I don't have to work on COF stuff. Whenever anyone asks COF questions, I just send them to him now.
Good. Perfect.
Yeah, Perry, you slacker.
Listen, man, you make the kind of content that you want to make.
All the COF people were suffering because of
I didn't want to feel like I was obligated to make content.
You're supposed to be their chosen champion.
I feel like COF represents the kind of way that I want to play Last Epoch. Like, I know that Merchant's Guild is busted. We've talked about it. It literally feels like a different video game from as far as I can tell.
It is.
Frozen, are you going to keep playing COF in 1.1?
I mean, for me as an ARPG player, I don't really enjoy trade or the market in general. So like, I don't really see a world where I don't play COF.
See, that's what I'm talking about. We need more people who like they want to play the game that way.
I've been turncoating. I've been playing my fair share of COF for my character till I get to 300 corruption, then I move on to the next one. I'm doing cycle start testing, but I played it. I totally don't have like 80k favor every single time I'm done with the character, and I barely interact with the system at all. Totally not.
So we know there's gonna be a couple changes to COF in 1.1. We haven't seen the patch notes. We don't have like the overhaul of the system, but we know that they're at least tinkering with what some of those levels are gonna be. And one of them spoiled was it was a exiled mage one. Is like exiled mages are more likely to do something.
I think it was experimental items. Let me check. I have a spreadsheet for all this. Exiled mages drop twice as many experimental items.
Which I hope that if they're interested in, I mean, I've even made a video about this. I hope that if they're interested about tying experimental affixes into COF, maybe we get more experimental affixes at some point. Like, I would like that. I think experimental affixes are great.
Oh, that would
They just
actually
need to
kind
be
of make it
expounded.
worse, technically.
What's that?
That would make it worse because that would make the pool bigger, right?
Sure, but I just want more of them. I like them. I want more of that.
What they could do is they could make him drop multiple experimental items at once. That would be a cool idea, right?
That would absolutely be cool. Yeah,
Or
I'd
like
be
a
on board
node
with
in
that.
COF that like has a chance to copy the exiled mage, so you get two of them instead of one.
Like 2 mages, like you fight 2 of them.
Yeah, and then they both drop their stuff, obviously.
What if above 500 corruption, exiled mages spawn in pairs?
Well, I was talking about this earlier. What they could do is how they have the faction for the Harbingers, which we'll talk about probably in a moment.
Sure,
But,
sure.
they could have like the experimental mage faction, where like experimental mages do everything, and like there's a bunch of different things tied to them. But I won't get too far into that.
I like the idea of an experimental mage instead of an exiled mage.
Yeah,
I think you could run with that, and you have like exiled affixes, experimental mages. Am I making fun of Dread, or is it actually a cool idea? I'm not sure.
No. That's no. I think experimental mage would be cool. Like,
Sure.
they got experimented on, and like all of a sudden, like he's like like freaking a metamorph, where like the metamorph is like going around and stuff, and he like turns into a mob. Like imagine experimental mage turns into Riot real quick and one taps you.
So sure. So do we know anything else about the COF changes? I think
There's the boss one.
The boss one. That's great.
Yeah.
Oh, wait, that actually addresses one of the big differences between like COF and Merchants Guild, because in 1.0 it was really hard to figure out what COF advantage you had in order to get a unique item drop from a boss, like a Twisted Heart, for example. Because Merchants Guild, you could buy it, and COF, there was no counterpart to it at all. But all of a sudden, what's the new change? Is like bosses are twice as likely to drop their specific unique item or something?
It's 150% increased, so 2.5 times.
Okay.
Isn't it
For,
like capped though? Technically, though, like the rarity part, right? Like, isn't that capped at least? Is this like multiplicative with that, or how does that even work?
I think most of the drop bonuses end up being multiplicative in some way.
All right, if that's the case, then it'll be really strong. But if it was additive, it would be bad because there's a cap.
So I want more perspective from the person who's making spreadsheets about this, because I got my touchy feely emotions, but I don't have my Microsoft Excel. So like Frozen, what's like a pain point about COF, and what would you want to see made better if they're reworking what these levels are going to be for COF?
It did make on this exactly, and it was like my wish list. And the exiled mage thing, that was like one of the top items that I was complaining about. Was like, for context, I probably killed close to 3,000 mages in cycle 1, so like an absurd amount. And there were several affixes that I wanted to play around with that I never ended up dropping as exalted. So like that was kind of a little bit like weird, right? Like, because if I'm not getting it with that sample size, most players are probably never going to see these affixes other than like maybe T5 or Insight Craft or something like that. Yeah, so that was I think the biggest one. The other one is, even with this drop rate, you still have to farm dungeons, like for Core of the Mountain, for example, or whatever item that you might want. And as Merchant Guild, you can farm whatever you want and then buy the items from those things that you may not enjoy. And with the way that corruption scaling works with favor, at least in the current game, and the way it also affects prophecies, you're disincentivized from ever doing dungeons, especially as COF. So it still feels really bad to be sort of incentivized to do those dungeons for those drops.
Especially since there's a chance of not getting the item for some reason, in the Soulfire Bastion and Lightless Harbor. No idea why they made that change.
You can technically drop multiple items. Ooh. Yeah.
I mean,
the fact that you can kill a boss and get nothing out of it is just like such a feel bad.
The one is it called the COF thing with the 150% more boss drops or whatever. It does buff dungeons in COF. It makes them a little bit more palpable, I will say.
I could take that.
Yeah.
Is Mage a boss?
I would like to say like, oh, I don't mind dungeons. I can do them every once in a
Mage
while.
should be a boss. I think anything that has like that bar above your head or whatever is like a boss. I think. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong, obviously, and people can laugh at me, but I believe that's the case. I know there's many bosses like the Wingari raid leaders and stuff like that.
I guess we'll find out soon based on the boss dynamic damage
but
reduction.
It would make no sense
stuff.
if they didn't work on the dungeon bosses, right?
They really should. But like, it doesn't say
Mage
monolith.
is confirmed. Mage is confirmed. Yep.
It is? Okay, so Exiled Mage is confirmed, 150% increase. Got it.
God, that should make it way better.
Thank you, Twitch chat.
Wait, that doesn't matter though, because you can only ever drop one item with experimental affixes, right?
Can you?
Can you drop more than one?
If something has a 100% drop rate and you have 150% increase, like you would think that this buff would allow you to drop multiple, right? Because otherwise, anything that has a high drop chance, and maybe you're just farming LP, then this rank would do basically nothing for you.
It's a great question. I've got more questions than answers all of a sudden. All right, so do we pause the podcast and go harass Mike?
Nah,
we'll harass him later.
Yeah.
I'm so excited for 1.1. I know this is off topic. I'm so happy to have the podcast back. Like, shooting the breeze, talking about Last Epoch is one of the things that I really look forward to every week. And taking a big break, just like waiting for 1.1.
The big break only happened because we had a delay, to be fair.
And we planned this episode. Like Frozen, we reached out to you like a while ago talking about this.
It was like a month ago at least. And then it got delayed. Everything got delayed, and it was just like, all right, I guess we just go and do something else then for a bit.
Just keep playing Last Epoch is what I did.
Well, I did it too, but it's just a weird be like doing a podcast in the middle where everyone isn't around, it'd be weird.
True. Frozen, what have you been up to? What games are keeping you busy on the side?
I mean, to be honest, it's pretty much just been Last Epoch. I do play Valheim with my wife though. So we're currently doing a playthrough of that. So that's been fun. Other than that, I was away. I just got back from Europe, so that's where I was the last few weeks before. Not really playing much Last Epoch.
You went to Europe to go harass some EHG staff members to fix COF, I know.
Dear Carve.
It's on a secret, Dear Carve.
There you go.
I like the sound of it. All right, so we have a couple of spoilers that we get to talk about. Over the past week on Tuesday, right before my power went out, we got a big info dump from EHG talking about things to look forward to in 1.1. We can touch on some of those, or we can touch on the things that just got leaked in the past, 4 hours or so from the dev stream. So let's go back in time to Tuesday. The post was detailing a lot of stuff. They're changing up, instead of doing like a hype week thing, like one thing every day for a week, they're just giving us a big info dump right now about what to look forward to. We have the Nemesis and the egg mechanic, which looks like it's going to revitalize your desire to pick up 0 LP items, which to me is awesome. I love the idea of picking up like a 0 LP Ravenous Void and then
more stuff in monos to do, right? Actual stuff.
Yes, yeah. I think it's gonna feel really good.
It's such a weird thing because I just remembered this, okay? Because Frozen is having problems with mages in COF, right? But with the extra exalted chance and all that, in theory, you should be getting more exalted experimental affixes quicker, right? But you're having problems with it, right?
Well, I think it's just any affix, right?
Yeah.
And then
but then in Merchant's Guild, we never kill experimental mages because they never drop anything.
Really? You never do?
Yeah, I just skip them. Yeah. After a while, you just skip them. Like when you kill one, odds are he's going to drop an experimental affix that isn't exalted. If it's not exalted, it's not worth shit, man.
But he could drop an LP unique item.
Yeah, but why would I myself farm it when there are plenty of people who are going slower who will kill it, and then I can snipe it for 50k gold off the market.
So you want other people to do it, but you recognize that it's a waste of your time.
Yeah, it like if you're trying to like do certain things, like it really becomes it's weird because but then you go on the market, right? And there's plenty. It's like a bounty board of like experimental affixes. So it's just such a weird thing where like I'm not farming them and I don't want to farm them, but I have plenty of access to the system. But then Frozen here, he's like struggling and like desperate for them and killing every single one, but he can't get anything. It's such a crazy dichotomy, right?
Also the base types too, like let alone getting an affix that you want. If you're using it as an exalt and not a slam, then like good luck getting your eternal gauntlets or whatever, right? Like it's never gonna happen.
Yeah, it's like I realized that because like we it's like wow, such a weird difference, and it's like I don't know how they plan to fix it, to be honest, in that regard.
I would love to see. We actually talked about this like a day or so ago. A CUF thing for like higher level base types drop more often.
Yeah,
it'd give you better access to stuff, but like I think that's a bad idea. Like that should not be implemented because there are use cases for like lower level base types in some scenarios. Like you'd have to have it opt in somehow.
You would just make them drop more items, but they already do that. So like, do they need to make it even crazier? Do you need even bigger loot explosions? Or maybe they should add, oh, you know what they should do?
They should add a dungeon that lets you reroll the base type of an item.
No. Oh, well, you have the Glyph of Envy, remember? You can use the Glyph of Envy on
terrible response. There's no way.
I mean,
Finish your idea, and then we'll talk about what a weird item. Finish the idea first, and then
we'll
talk.
You have a prophecy that says the next mage you kill drops an exalted pair of gloves with an experimental affix on it, or something like that.
Or drops a pair of gloves with an exalted experimental affix.
Yeah, something.
Yeah,
like
there
that.
you go.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like,
okay, there you go. Yeah, the prophecy
fine.
system could fix it. Sure.
Yeah. Like I think they should lean more into the faction mechanics specifically when it comes to these things.
Yeah,
it makes it more fun, right?
I feel like there's a problem with the prophecies though, with how many there are. Like if they continue to add more, they're very much diluting the rolls, and like the rerolls are already like terrible, right?
They could make a whole new constellation where they take all the currency drops ones and put that with the experimental mage ones. So the idle ones are by themselves or whatever, and you can do it like by base idle type. Like they could just add more constellations. Like
they could add more lenses too. They could add more lens slots. Like I think it's a mechanism that scales well if they wanted it to.
Yeah.
So it will never happen, and we're just
Frozen's like, oh no, I gotta make more spreadsheets.
I mean, come on.
Yeah, it's such a high effort path to take as a content creator.
Is to make spreadsheets for everything. Yeah. Listen, it's if this was like some other video game, sure, but this is an action RPG. People, there's a large market for people out there who like looking at a spreadsheet. All right. So after that, the info dump from Tuesday, we had the egg, which we could still talk about, but let's touch on the Glyph of Envy. So Glyph of Envy, and I apologize for not pulling this up on the screen, but I guess I can read it out to you because it is definitely the weirdest item that we've seen in a very long time. So let's see, Glyph of Envy, clickety clickety. Let's go scroll. I truly feel like reading Glyph of Envy makes it more confusing than it is, because I'll tell you at face value what it does. Glyph of Envy, you use it on an item that you don't care about, and it messes up the item, and then it puts stability on your timeline. So if you want stability, you use Glyph of Envy on something that you don't care about. That's all it does. However, because Dread seems to be an absolute maniac and thinks that you could legitimately use this for crafting, let's read what Glyph of Envy does. It says, destabilizes an item, unpredictably changing all properties other than the affix that's being upgraded. This stability is siphoned to the most recent monolith timeline you entered, greatly increasing its stability, means you can kill the boss sooner. The forging potential of the item is not changed beyond the normal reduction, and the changes cannot result in affixes above tier 5. So you can't Glyph of Envy into an exalted item. Existing sealed affixes cannot be changed, grants far more stability if you've never completed the timeline before. This is such a head scratcher. I love it.
It's a Hail Mary. That's what it is. You drop an item,
weird.
okay? You drop an item. that has one really good affix you want tier 7 area for some reason.
No,
right?
that doesn't. It literally doesn't work. But continue.
What do you mean it doesn't
Okay,
work?
how would your understanding, how would your appreciation of Glyph Envy change if you read it?
Let me look here.
All right.
I thought that's literally what it says.
No.
It has to be a T4 at most.
It has
though,
to be
that
an
you're
affix that you
upgrading,
can
right?
use a Glyph on.
Oh, I mean, sure then. Yeah, good point.
So if it had like
if it kept the tiers of the thing
No.
and just randomized what the affix was,
No.
I guess it would be fine.
okay,
That's
so
annoying.
for example, Dread, if you had like a really good tier 4 affix,
Yeah.
and then you wanted to change everything else about the item, you could, including the subtype. So if you had a gold ring, it could turn into like an opal ring, for example. But like, good luck, because it's not going to be an exalted item. You have to use it on something that's less than tier 5, and it's bonkers.
I thought it kept the exalted affix.
No,
to be
it
honest.
doesn't do anything.
Yeah. I guess you just use it to like carry your friends in stability and stuff, essentially.
Yeah,
So what you can do is you can like use a bunch of them on your empowered timelines to get a bunch of bosses in the last 3.
Yeah.
And then just carry your friend through all 3 bosses real quick.
Yeah, totally.
That's the main use of it.
Yeah,
or
Guys,
yourself.
It's a chaos orb,
Yeah. I mean,
right?
okay.
No,
I
while you're
think the
leveling.
problem-
It's
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, it's a chaos orb, and it does not yield exalted.
The problem becomes, I think last Epoch is gonna like start feeling the pain of this system as well, and we're already feeling the
which
pain.
system?
Oh, of the items where like if it's not exalted, resident sleeper kind of thing.
Yeah.
Like if they don't make it interact with exalted items, it's essentially like dead on arrival, right? And I think that is a problem with this item, is since it does not interact with the exalted affixes at all, is the problem. Like if it could just give you anything, like give you like a tier 7 technically, do you think that would be OP? Like I don't think that'd be OP.
No, I think that'd be completely fine.
Yeah, like, oh no, ooh, you accidentally got something usable out of it. How could you, right?
And like, you know, it siphons off a bunch of stability. So even if you hit like the god tier 7 affix, like you can't really craft it anymore because you've already siphoned a whole bunch of FP off it onto your timeline.
Yeah, the above tier 5 thing is probably the, like if it wasn't for that, I think it'd be fine. I thought
were they too conservative in making this thing? Undoubtedly, right?
I thought the way they could have done it is like if I could choose the exalted affix and then re-roll the rest of the item, I would think it would be
that sounds
fine
good.
too. Yeah, that's how it should work. That's what I thought it did in the first place. But obviously, you know, I have been foiled.
You know how many questions
mediocrity.
All 3 of us, people are going to come to you and be like, "Oh, how does this thing work? I can't figure out how to use it." And it's like, stop it. Stop reading it. It's just there to confuse you. Don't do it.
That's sad. That's actually kind of sad. I thought it worked like that. That'd have been cool.
Someone in Twitch chat live said you could use it early for shards. That's an interesting thought. So we have another thing called a glyph. Is it a glyph or a rune? I think it's a rune of discovery.
Rune of discovery, yeah.
And the rune of discovery actually has text on it saying that when you use it to populate the affixes of your item, it will try to give you rare affixes. So if you really need, like, oh man, if only I had 1 more plus level to devouring orb, if you use a rune of discovery on a helmet, you might get that +1 level, and then you can remove it off, and then you have a shard, then you can craft it somewhere else. And that's kind of interesting. It's kind of niche, but it exists, and it's interesting. So I don't hate that.
I think you can just ignore the effect then, since it does not interact with exalted.
Completely ignore it.
But it really does show that like we are in a post-exalted world. If it's not exalted, like get it the fuck out of here, right?
Does it take your own shards? Go ahead, Frozen.
If you're leveling, it feels really useful, right? Like if you have a really good base type for your specific build and you have 1 good affix, you can reroll for a lot of chances to get a good item. But then while you're leveling or early for shards, you don't have these, right? Because they mainly drop from the Harbinger.
Yeah.
Yeah, they did say, I want to point this out because people are talking about leveling. In the post, it says Glyph of Envy can only be found within level 100 zones, so post-empowered. And then they drop most commonly from rare enemies and from Harbingers. So on your first character, pre-empowered, you're not going to get these at all.
Yeah, I think they could have just made these more. I think they were way too conservative with this. They could have just like I think right now, like Ellie has room for this kind of stuff. Like I think it legitimately has room for fun mechanics like this. Like,
yeah, I like it. It
Yeah.
kind of reminds me of like Singularity when they first released that 1x1 unique idol in the game. It's like 20% more damage, but you don't crit. You don't do crit. Like,
I mean, now we have the other 1x1 unique idol that's actually good though.
Oh, it's an interesting one. We'll get to that. So, like Singularity, I always said that Singularity, like a 20% roll, it's 20% more damage. Like, sure, but like crit's really not that hard to come by in most builds, and Singularity has never really found a home. It's pretty niche for any kind of non-crit build, especially considering that it doesn't even work with some of the other non-crit items in the game. And Singularity always kind of felt pre-nerf to me. Like it felt like maybe it could go up to 30% more hit damage for non-critical damage. Like it could. It
See,
could do that.
you'll have that happen, okay? You'll have that happen. But then you'll read the patch notes. You'll be like, Frostclaw has been buffed again.
Okay, what's as someone who dumped 500 hours into it, like I played a little bit. I don't think I did 500 hours. Frozen, are they gonna buff Frostclaw? What do you think?
They might by accident.
I can explain what the problem is right now.
You tell me what the problem is, Dread.
Okay, so right now there are 2 bugs involved with Frozen's build.
Oh.
I'm sorry. The devs are mean, I know. But there are two bugs. First things off, Gift of Winter is not supposed to be proccing on the little bounces when you get like through the snow and all that. Sure.
Which one's Gift of Winter? Is that
it's the one that gives you extra mana on when
mana
you
refund,
cast
sure.
it.
Okay.
It's supposed to be when you self-cast it, but
got it?
Will we ever get a patch where things are not bugged? Who knows, right? And then the next thing, right, is the bug. It's funny they call it a bug, right? But this has been in the game for like years now. Is Frostclaw bypassing the cooldown on Elemental Nova when you get the increased area on it, right? On that one node that gives it the cooldown, which allows
it's like 150% increased area or something. Yeah.
Now, the problem is by calling that a bug, you have destabilized the entirety of the game and just said that there's been a bug in the game for 5+ years that everyone has been building around because we thought that's how the game worked.
So tell me what the bug is.
It is when a proc can bypass a cooldown and is not respecting the cooldown and the mana cost of the thing.
Which
kind
happens
of like
all
Surge.
the time. All the time this happens.
All the time. Literally all the time. All the time. Everywhere. It's been like that for 5 years. And just now, all of a sudden, because a good build pops up with it, like that's like when it's called a bug. I'm like for instance, it happened to you too, Perry. Remember with the surge thing and the static?
Yeah, static. Yep.
Yeah, and it's like, well, fix it already then.
We were talking about this, and the devs have said that they're interested in some point in like addressing this or fixing it or making some kind of changes based on like cooldowns, procs, and like whether they respect each other. And you and I were mentioning about this or talking about this a couple days ago. And even like the most simple builds, like I enjoy playing Holy Trail Javelin, and I use a spear for that build when I'm leveling because I like to throw it.
Gutted.
I get to throw it,
gutted.
and then I lunge, and then now I've got two on the ground, and I can throw another one, and all of a sudden I got 3 overlapping dots that all stack damage, and that's cool. Like you sacrifice your wand, you sacrifice your staff, you sacrifice your damage. Instead, you use a weapon type that basically does nothing for you, but you get 2 of them, and it gives you better mobility and a better playstyle. And that, if the change goes through and like they blanket everything the same way, my playstyle for that build is completely destroyed.
Like Frozen, remember when we were having this conversation and I was explaining it to you and you were dumbfounded by it? Remember?
Yeah.
Didn't that sound dumb to you at the time?
Well, it's even like my build alone. Like I used the runic one too, bypassing with flame rush. And that was like a meta build for a while with the little fire turret thing.
Mm-hmm. And like the plasma orb, apparently, like that would be changed too. Even though
huge shakeup.
Even though on the node that talks about runic invocation in like what is it called? I can't remember what it's called. But it literally says if this is not cast directly, it does not gain the more damage from it. So it's just like there's no consistency to it at all, right? And it's funny because we have precedent of it being in the game. Like for instance, we have swipe. Because if you read swipe, the node primal resonance, it says it can proc the companion skill on cooldown. So this has been in the game forever now. They just haven't fixed it since it's just like I don't, don't get me wrong. I love Last Epoch. Okay, I love the game. All right, I'm gonna say this with most I'm with most love and cherishment, like everything, right? I'm gonna say this, okay? What the hell? Like, come on, man. Like, it's been here for 5 years. Like, everyone's like, oh, like buggy game, dead game, buggy game, yada yada yada. It's like, well, there's a kernel of truth to that. It's like, yeah. I don't know. You can continue on, Perry. I'm gonna just sit here.
I feel like I need to pour you a glass of wine or something. Just like I'm sorry, Dread. You know, I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. It's just like there's like two narratives going on. Okay, there's like us where we play the game, and this is how we believe the game to function and work because we've been playing it. And then there's the dev's vision of the game. But that's the thing. It's a vision, and it's not what the actual game is like. Like, for instance, like last night, you were talking with Mike specifically with the Titan Heart stuff, right? And it's like, well, this is what we believe. And then Mike, well, yada, yada, yada. Like, this is what he believes. And I was like, well, that's not what it's like at all in the game. Actually, like, if you actually, I don't know. You can explain it if you want to, or like,
I feel like we have so many things to talk about. Like, you don't need to touch on dual wield Titan Heart increased damage taken.
We can save that for a different day. But so we can talk about the stuff. So let's talk about Harbingers, okay? Because those are fun.
So the Harbinger is the new pinnacle boss system. There's one singular pinnacle boss, and then there is a Harbinger mini boss at the end of each of the 10 monoliths. Yeah? Am I saying that right?
Yeah, and apparently it's like a chance to see it when you kill the boss or something like that. I think. I have to go look at the dev blog again, but I believe that's what people said. That there's like a chance of you finding the Harbinger, and then you kill said Harbinger, then you have to go and kill the Harbinger on the other 9.
I am proper excited. I'm
excited
I got
too.
high hopes, man.
But something that actually was brought up earlier in chat that actually is part of Frozen's problem here is Aberoth, or whatever. He is going to be a fixed difficulty boss.
Yeah.
Okay? That means he does not get the LP chances that Corruption gives, which even compounds the issue that Frozen has. Like, how do you feel about that, Frozen? That
I feel like
isn't affected by corruption.
I don't think my gear would be even remotely competitive with Merchant Guild players if it wasn't for the corruption scaling, right?
Yeah. So now you're going to be killing Aberoth, right? And just hoping to God you see LP on your item, even though it's like base 100 corruption, like based, LP, okay. Right? Like, for instance, I'm going to be rolling around with a World Ender with 2 LP eventually, right? But then you're going to be like desperate for one. Like, you're going to like have to like literally gnaw yourself to the bone to even attempt to get one, right?
What if they made the LP level for the Aberoth drops from the Pinnacle boss like low? So that you like see them with LP more often. That
would fix it. Yeah, that would fix it.
I wonder. That's a non-zero problem you described there.
Yeah. Yeah, because we were talking about it earlier because we were like, how are we going to farm these? Like, how common is this going to be? And like, we realized, wait a moment, if it's fixed content. And I think that, I'll be honest, I'm not going to lie, man. The corruption scaling the LP thing and then having infinite corruption, like it's starting to like get annoying, and especially with the bug that's giving you more gold based on the corruption you're at, which hasn't been fixed yet. Like, well, what do you think about that? Like, do you think that if they were to fix it or change it, like it would screw COF over a lot? So what do you think would be a solution to the problem, Frozen?
Well, I think the issue is in general of how favor scales with corruption, right? Like it's directly tied to experience, and experience scales linearly with corruption. Whereas people who are playing Merchant Guild, the drops themselves, they don't quite scale to the same level as experience. Like the ramp up for you going to like 1,000 corruption as a Merchant Guild player, it's not, you're not getting 10 times more items than 100, whereas as COF you are. So we're significantly more dependent on that corruption to get our items. And then if they change the power level of builds or change the scaling of corruption or whatever, then all of a sudden COF is in a really bad spot. So they probably need to do something with the formula or something like that, where maybe like over time played or something, you can progress something that causes you to get more favor. And even then it would help with like alts and stuff. Yeah, it's just kind of a hard problem to deal with.
Speaking about alts and corruption, we should talk about the next item that the Harbingers are giving
We
us.
already mentioned the 1x1 thing, and again, I apologize for not showing it on the screen, but I'm going to link this in Twitch chat, and if you're following along, just go ahead and pop open the Harbingers.
I'll put the
of
link
Ruin.
in the Harbinger. Yeah, I'll link that
Thank
in the
you.
description
You know what, I'm
of
gonna
the
put that
video.
right there. Good. So this next thing is called Harbinger's Needle. It is a unique idol, and it sounds interesting. I think it sounds cool. So it's a 1x1, so you can hopefully fit it in for a while if you need to. It says that it breaks. It breaks if equipped when you kill a timeline boss above 90 corruption, causing that timeline boss kill to grant 3 additional Gaze of Erebus. And of course, stacking up Gaze of Erebus is how you push corruption faster. So if you have one of these, you kill the boss above 100 corruption, you get so I guess 90 corruption is the last 3 timelines. So basically you're using these in empowered monoliths, but it helps you get more Gaze, so it helps you stack corruption faster. It doesn't say that you can only have one of these equipped the same way that Singularity does, the other 1x1 unique idol. Yeah. Can I have a full idol inventory?
Remember, Gaze of Orbis does get worse as you get more, remember? So it does.
But I could equip 20 of these, and I just want to see what happens.
Yes, you can equip 20 of them, yes.
And then I'd get 60 Gazes of Erebus?
I think that like this is a good way of fixing the corruption thing. Like it means that if your first character goes and kills a bunch of bosses and gets these things, their next character can get back on corruption and stuff like that. Right.
Huge.
And then there's gonna be that one guy that complains, yeah, well, what if I'm not killing those bosses? What am I not, getting to this corruption and doing? I was like,
that sounds very similar to like, why can't I play Last Epoch while I'm at work on my work computer?
Yeah,
it's a similar, it's given the same energy.
Oh, I know, I agree. I just know there's gonna be that one person like, why are you locking the corruption stuff to the end game boss that I'm supposed to be doing anyways?
That's a tricky question, my friend. That is a tricky question.
Maybe a spicy take, but I feel like as part of the current timeline, when you kill Shade, right, you're reset, you go back to the beginning.
Yes.
And then you have to work your way towards the end. And usually by the time you get there, you already have enough stability for probably 2 or 3. And that's where the diminishing returns are like extremely heavy already.
Yeah.
So I feel like the needle is actually like, it could be a recovery mechanic. If you die to Shade, then you can get that back.
Pop a Shade. Yeah.
Or maybe also there could be something in the new faction that lets you fight Shade without it resetting you. Because like just right now, reading this in the current game, it looks like crap.
And you're like, so this is part of a conversation for like min-maxing stuff in the past. We said that if you wanted to push corruption, you'd ideally have 2 or 3 Gazes of Erebus, and by the time that you push from the center node out in your web to where you find a good Erebus that has plus 12, plus 13, plus 14 to your corruption, by the time you get there, you've already fought the boss 2 or 3 times. So like that's the problem you're describing there.
Yeah, exactly.
If I would say corruption's probably problematic. Probably. It is. Corruption's currently problematic because it takes too long and it's
The
boring and
scaling
it
itself
scales
is
too
fine.
slowly.
It's everything around it, like the actual numbers behind it.
Yeah.
Are good now. I like bosses that actually have HP. It's a very good change, by the way. It's enjoyable.
You know what? That is a good change. I do like that.
I like that. It's just everything around it with like they added the LP based on the corruption, which they didn't need to add. For some reason, gold is scaling on corruption for
Even
some
though they
reason.
said that they
which
removed it.
shouldn't. Even though they said they removed it and got rid of it, even though it still is, because like I keep getting Snap where he's like 2,000 corruption. He keeps sending me pictures of like him opening a chest at the end of a mono, and he gets like 4 million gold every single time.
Cool.
Like I saw, like it's great, woo, right? It's weird in that regard, and of course you have the problem where like it's either too hard to get to for some people,
Yeah.
or too easy and you go too far.
It takes too long.
Yeah, it takes.
Yeah.
Like, how do you feel, Frozen? You push how far this patch? You push a very far.
Yeah, I got bored at 4,000. The build could definitely go further. We have a guy in Discord at 8,000 with the same build.
Is he having fun?
I think it's probably stops being fun and starts being like a unhealthy obsession at some point, right?
I'm reminded of Slippery Jim from the Path of Exile community. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like define fun. Well,
now to make an exception here, just to make sure chat is well aware of what's going on. Right now, it is currently viable to change your gear up a little bit and perma-stun / freeze an Oribus. So if you don't know, Oribus, on top of the normal already corruption scaling, he has another scaling on top of that. So as you push in corruption, he gets harder and harder and harder. And like, for instance, like at 4,000 corruption, like are the timeline bosses a problem at all, even without the freezing Frozen?
Yeah, it completely flips, right?
But
like
if the shit punches you, you die, right?
Yeah, well, like, okay, I mean, you know how much DR Runemaster has, like an absurd amount. The EHP is like in the hundreds of thousands. And pretty much any hit from Shade at that point will hit me for like 50 plus thousand. And it's pretty hard to survive that.
And the main way that people are getting around this imposed difficulty of getting people, like this is like Oribus is supposed to be the gatekeeper of the higher corruption, right? He's supposed to be the reason why you can't push past, like, let's say 1,500 or whatever, right? What the problem is you do two things. You either stun lock, freeze lock him with snap freeze, like Frozen is doing, right? To ignore the fight, and he just sits there and relaxes for a bit and like watches some Netflix on the side while he kills the Oribus. I know that you're making fun of the fact that like you might actually make a second set of gear just to kill Oribus, right? On that,
yeah. No, the tankiness of the boss, like it'll take like 3-4 minutes just to kill it.
Yeah, and it's just him sitting there, snap freezing him and attacking him, right? There's that version, or you go with what Scourge is doing, and you just abuse Ghost Flame, and you have 90% less damage taken everywhere. And then, like, when he slaps you for 50k, he actually slaps you for like maybe like 500. That's the other way that you cheese Oribus. So without these cheesing Oribuses, right? This is a good question for Frozen, right? Without being able to get to that high of corruption, right? To get to that high of corruption, if you were forced to actually fight the Oribus, how far do you think you would have actually made it?
Well, I have done above 2,000 corruption without cheese.
Yeah.
So I do think that 3,000 is probably possible with Runemaster. But beyond that, it just starts to become like a battle of attrition where you're kind of just waiting to get hit, and when you get hit, you're gone, and then you lose your stacks, and then like the whole thing just falls apart, and it just becomes not even worth it, even if you could do it.
And now this developed into the next part of the question where I've had conversations about this constantly on stream. I actually had someone come into my Twitch chat and say, COF is better than Merchant's Guild Dread. And I was like, why are you saying that? He's like, well, there's this guy called Frozen. He's like at 4K corruption, and he's got like way better gear than everyone in Merchant's Guild has. And it's like, he's doing great. Like, he's COF. And I'm just like, will you get out of my chat?
That's how statistics work. Just like,
will you get out of my chat? I was just like, go away. I was like, I don't want to have this conversation because you're obviously refusing to see the logic here of what the problem is, of how someone at 4,000 corruption finally has better gear than someone week 1 in Merchant's Guild. Like, how long you've been playing that character, Frozen? Like you said, how many hours? 500, you said?
Probably more. I'm just checking my Steam and it's like over 1,600, and I think start of cycle I was at like 800.
And
so
how many months did that take you to get to the gear that you have now?
I'd say probably the first maybe 1.5, and then I kind of just screwed around. But I do. Mm-hmm. I have the perfect analogy actually. Like, so I was arguing with a guy on the last Epoch Discord recently actually, that was saying, oh yeah, COF is better than Merchant Guild because I'm rank 1 on the ladder. I guess I'm kind of giving away what I'm talking about by saying that. Anyway, he was like, yeah, there's no Merchant Guild that's doing better than me. And like it felt a little bit weird because like from my experience playing Frostclaw, which has become a meta build, like I have people that are directly competing. If I make an update to my build and I say, oh, I found this new tech that's better, within 2 days, there are people in my Discord that have those items with more LP than mine, with perfect exalt rolls, usually multiple exalts on the same slam. And it's like, okay, this took me a long time to figure out this item was better and get it and equip it and farm it and slam it. And it's like, okay, one day, there they go. Their build's better than mine again.
Done.
And remember, you are at an absurd amount of corruption that is nowhere near intended. Like Mike was like, hey, if you're 4-digit, it's like because we forgot something or something like that, right? So imagine you were stuck at 700 corruption. Imagine how good your gear would be then versus now, right? Like, oh my goodness, like the favor per hour would be like wouldn't it be like crazy, like way lower, like even a quarter lower or something like that?
Yeah, we're talking like going from like 600,000, 700,000 favor an hour down to maybe like 70 if you're really grinding it out.
Yeah. God, that just makes that conversation with that dude even funnier that I had, because I'm just like I literally have the person who we're talking about in my DMs telling me that COF sucks versus Merchant's Guild, and you're telling me COF is better because this guy's doing so well in it. I'm just like, what do you think would fix it? Like, do you think there's something that they could do to, like, obviously they're never going to fix the gap because that would be almost impossible at this state, unless like they literally just made COF just like free candy everywhere, right? What do you think that they should do if, like, for instance, if they nerf all the builds, they bring everything back into like balance, quote unquote, everyone's just farming 700 corruption fast or 1,000 corruption fast? What do you think would be a viable solution to fix the problem for you if you were forced to have that much favor?
Well, I think the big thing is the dependence on the favor, for one, but also like when you're looking at the top tier Merchant Guild players, and like that's who you're competing with, right? Like, yeah, there's so many like crazy trickery and stuff that like they're regularly buying items for 1.5 billion gold. Like they had the whole gold dupe thing, and like these people were like, they were ready. They knew, and like they listed all the items. They had them sitting in their shop ready to redeem. They need a bit more gold, just redeem another. Like they have infinite resources, and no matter what you do, you're never going to compete with that. And it only takes like just an example. Like I got the rank 1 arena ladder this season, SUF, which was like super hype. And then it was one day. It lasted one day. Yeah, because like you just can't compete with Merchant Guild, and I think we need more items, and it's okay that you can't compete with Merchant Guild. Like we shouldn't, COF shouldn't be better than Merchant Guild, or no one would ever bother with trade, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's a really good observation.
Now, the thing is, what I think, and the way that they should go about this in the future, in my opinion, is just start improving the quality of life for COF. Like make it so that those gigantic explosions are manageable, where you don't have to spend 5 years looking at every single item, because you can't filter through LP, which they are changing, by the way, which might not even which will be great, by the way, especially for egg farming and stuff like that. Make it so that when I'm looking through prophecies, I can like look at more prophecies at once, reduce the favorite cost. Like they can just start like go bingo, bingo, bongo, like literally bam, there. Now it's cheaper to get prophecies. Bam, now it's cheaper to get rerolls. Bam, now the prophecies are better. Bam, the prophecies drop double. They could start doing that. And I still doubt that you would be like, it would still be comparable. And that, I think that's the beautiful thing, is like, they can kind of just start I don't know, like they seem very open to just start fucking around with it. Which I'm happy with, by the way.
With the power level of COF, you mean?
Yeah, like, because I know how you feel about this, Perry, and I feel about this the same way. I am kind of tired of draconic kind of balancing, where in this regard, where like there's no experimentation to be had. Like if they just really wanted to fuck around with COF, like I'd be completely down for it. Like, would you be down for it, Perry? Like I don't care.
Just real quick, you said you know how I feel. How do I feel? Tell me how I feel.
How do you feel?
Yeah,
you feel I think you would feel tired that like there's not enough experimentation when it comes to balancing. Like for instance, we had these 5 years worth of like cat, please, cat, please.
Cat.
Stop. Thank you. Okay. You have this 5 years of early access, and like they were kind of afraid to just like budge some numbers. You know what I mean? I'm like, oh no, all of a sudden, like Meteor was playable for a patch. Whatever shall we do? Like, obviously, don't get me wrong, it's a lot of work and all that to keep track of all that. But like, I felt like as though they could have like used the time in a more like different manner.
So we're currently discussing COF and Merchants Guild, which has been around for one patch.
Yeah, exactly.
So to say that like we're tired of the draconic method.
Oh no, I'm talking about in gaming as a whole. Okay, I'm not talking about just last Epoch or Path
of Epoch. Sure.
Yeah, just like in general, I've just noticed that like in this case, like for instance, like Frozen, like do you think if they like quadrupled the item drops or quadrupled the prophecies, it like the amount that the prophecies drop, do you think you'd still be able do you think Merchant's Guild would still be better?
If you're saying the number of items that drop, well then I'm just spending 4 times as long looking through the drops, right? Like we have LP filter, but that's not enough. Yeah,
and the fact that I can say that, and you could surefire tell me that like Merchant's Guild would still be better, is my point here. Is like they could do that and it would still be a problem, and it wouldn't be good enough. So they like, I'm talking like some crazy stuff. Like they could just start having fun with it. Right?
I feel like there's a lot of things to push back on here, and I've let you ramble for a while, but
no, you're good. Go ahead.
First of all, even outlining all of this as a problem is a little strange to me, because the way that I describe Merchants Guild versus COF, like I describe them as 2 different video games. And like, when you're competing on a ladder, you're competing in the same video game. And like, I think what Frozen said is a really healthy observation, saying like, you just can't compete with them. Like if you live and die by being rank 1 on the ladder, go be Merchants Guild, go compete on the competitive axis. Because the reason that I enjoy COF and that I advocate COF to other people is it represents the manner in which I want to play the video game, and the way that I want to acquire my items. And I like looking at loot, and I like having that struggle. It's why people like writing in cursive instead of writing on a computer sometimes. Like I want to go through the extra hassle of getting my items that way, because that's the way that brings me joy. And like, do you have to fix it? Do you?
What Cyborg just said would probably fix it, to be honest. It's like they should probably just have separate ladders, to be honest with you.
Well, also the base game's difficulty, like it is scaled around a certain like relative power level, right?
Yeah.
Like you had PoE with SSF that was basically just hard mode, right? Like a challenge mode. Because it was like the same but with worse items. And I think in Last Epoch, like they've given COF as like a consolation prize so that you can sort of like have that agency to choose whether or not you want to trade, but then still like it's not a challenge mode in theory, right? Like if it's too far behind, then these like pinnacle bosses that are like, oh, well, it's kind of reasonable for Merchant Guild, then it would be like super hard for COF.
I'm so excited for the bosses.
Yeah, I'm excited too.
I'm going to pivot for a moment. We've been podcasting for about an hour now, and I want to bring up something else because I love the idea of offering eggs to people in these trying times. So I'm going to introduce this item, and then we can chit chat about it. In that post from this past Tuesday, they talked about the Nemesis system. So far, we've only been discussing Harbinger. Harbinger is the pinnacle boss system that has like all the mini bosses and like one pinnacle piece of content. We talked about that a little bit. So this Nemesis, and Nemesis is the bit that you'll be running into during an echo. So it'll be kind of like an exiled mage from as far as I can tell. And at some point, they start offering you this egg. And again, if you want to see what the egg says, if you want to read this, take a look at the blog post. But I'm going to read to you what the egg says here. It's a relic, technically. But more importantly is this text. It says, can be replaced with a unique item that lacks both LP and Weaver's Will. Changes into a random unique item if dropped or empowered. So in the mechanism of engaging with these Nemesis things, it's like a shrine. You walk up to it, a little UI menu pops up, and sometimes there'll be an egg. And if you click on the egg, you can put into the UI, you can put in a unique item that you own that has no LP on it. And it will be randomly modified in some way, including, in their words, it can become legendary. So it could gain tier 7 hybrid health. It could gain tier 1 hybrid health. It could become a legendary by gaining random affixes, or instead, it could even gain legendary potential. And this, when we're talking about filtering 0 LP items off of our filters, is really interesting because exiled mages are every single echo. And these Nemesis monsters are probably going to be every single echo. And you're going to have something to do. You're going to have a mechanism that encourages you to have 0 LP unique items so that you can gamble more often. And boy, this is twitch.tv. You can predict more often. You can predict to your heart's content. We don't gamble on this website. But I love this. I'm going to find a 0 LP Aurora's Time Glass, toss it in there. 0 LP Twisted Heart, toss it in the egg. Ravenous Void, toss it in. If I get melee attack speed, guess I'm playing a melee build, baby. Like
imagine getting like T7 Frostclaw on your 0 LP Twisted Heart.
Unbelievable. Like I can't wait to see that screenshot.
Yeah.
It's exactly the highlight that I want to see. Whew.
Question for you guys then.
Go ahead.
Yeah, so I guess with the 0 LPs being useful and there being LP filters in the game now, do you think the LP filters are useful in a world where there's no specific unique filtering capability? Because we only have 75 rules, right? Like if you can't select which items you want LP with, is that useful yet?
Can't you just like hide specific base? I guess that doesn't really work, huh? Yeah.
You kind of can, but then you're kind of screwed by the 75 rule limit, right?
Yeah.
Can you go over 75 rules if you edit it externally and then import the loot filter?
Huh.
I don't know, Perry. That sounds like external ways to work on the video game.
I'm not sure if you can do that. I'm not.
No, what I mean
I
is
would never
like,
advocate.
I keep being told that I can play Last Epoch without needing thousands of spreadsheets on the side, which is funny considering who we have on, without needing thousands of websites on the side to be able to play my video
You're
game.
completely correct. So I like looking at unique items that drop on the ground. If it's a unique pair of gloves, I hover my mouse over it so I get to see what it is. If it's a unique ring, I probably don't hover my mouse over it. Like, I don't know.
I think the biggest buff to COF, and I'm sure Frozen can feel me on this, is like storage. Storage.
Go
Yeah.
on. What do you mean?
Just better storage, like a unique storage thing where like it lets you put multiple uniques into it. You know, like if I have like 5 of the 5, like I don't know, like I'm trying to think of a random like 5 red rings, 5 non-LP red rings. Can I like put them in and stack them so I don't have to like spend all this space on like all of the failures, all the failed items I have or whatever. Like it would be nice to be able to do that. But
I mean, they just made stash tabs even more accessible. They brought down the cost for them.
Yeah, but I've seen the loot explosions in COF. Do you really think 200 slots is enough?
Guys, I have 200 tabs, and I frequently clear out my stash of.
See, I'm talking to I'm championing Frozen here when I say these things, because like in Merchant's Guild, the Merchant's Guild is your stash. I give 2 fucks in that regard, but like for COF, I could see that being a huge problem.
I used to be Perry. I was a young adventurer, just happy to see uniques, looking at all of them. I get so excited.
I like it. You know what? You know what it is? It provokes conversation on stream. It's like you find an item. It's like, I'm never going to use this, but at least we can rant about how bad it is. You know.
What do you think about? Sorry, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, like, when it's like a few uniques and they drop every now and then, like if it dropped like sequentially, or maybe not all in a pile, or something like that, right? Like it'd be okay. But then like the eye strain that you get, like when it's all together, like I even have like filters that I enable and disable while I'm looking at a pile of loot that like recolors and stuff, so I don't like go crazy.
God, that's actually a good idea.
See, what they should do is they should introduce. So they actually have this, and I know of all games from 10 years ago. Okay, they have this in Skyrim. Okay, at least recently, it might be a mod, I think, where if you look at a chest, okay, you can look at it from a glance to interact with the inventory, but it's all there in the game and you can scroll through it and stuff, right? Imagine having that, but if like 10 uniques drop at once or something stupid like that, right? It turns into a different UI that lets you scroll through them instead of having to hover over every single individual one. And
put it outside the echo too, so that you don't have to die to a spire.
I like Frozen's idea more than I like Ved's idea. Yeah, it's like taking those big loot explosions and moving them back to your hideout. Sounds like a better place to be.
Yeah. So what do you think about the Nemesis system, Frozen, before I give my thoughts?
I mean, I think that it's creating a precedent of agency, like player agency, where like you have the 3 options that's then multiplied by each choice you take, like if you want to upgrade or empower or whatever, right? And then I'm also wondering, like the egg says replace, like do you get the egg in your inventory or does it just disappear? Like it has stats and stuff, right?
I'm watching it real quick here.
It doesn't look like you get the egg.
Yeah.
Doesn't look like it.
That's fine. Yeah, I don't think you need the egg. It would be cool if you got it, but still.
It doesn't do anything. Why do you want the egg?
Because I want to have a whole inventory filled with them.
What's wrong with you?
What else? I'm Merchant's Guild. What else am I going to use my inventory for?
Well, yeah.
I have like 4 dump tabs that I just bulk sell on the market, and then that's it. Like,
Are there going to be any unique items that you can only obtain from a Nemesis egg?
That would be amazing. That would be cool.
So like there's an opportunity cost of putting in your own 0 LP unique items all the time?
I like this from Path of Exile, and I want this to be the same with like Last Epoch, where each unique mechanic has things that are only available from the unique mechanic, so that you have to farm for it from that mechanic instead of, opening a blight and seeing a bunch of simulacrum splinters.
I completely agree with you.
Let me actually farm
when Path of Exile made that change to make like all the loot drop everywhere, it was like,
they actually recently fixed it.
Did they?
They fixed some of it with like stack decks. Stack decks don't give boss cards anymore.
Okay.
So you have to farm the boss for the thing for the stack deck, right? And stuff like that. So they did that at least, but like they're working towards it. They're figuring it out step by step. But I want Ellie to be like that, where like if there's a nemesis, if there's a mage item I want to go kill the mages. I don't want to have to like go and kill a random mob and like a T4 drill or something, like a dungeon, and randomly see a spoon. You know, like I want to kill the mages for it.
I love the complaint that's already popped up in Twitch chat saying that farming arena unique items from the the Arena of Champions.
See, that's the only exception I'd make.
That is the most rancid piece of content. I will never do that content because I hate it so much. If
why I love
if the Shadow Dagger ring is like ever meta, or if the boots are ever like irreplaceably strong, I'll go play Path of Exile for a season. It's like I
you just don't
it.
play that build. You just don't play that build. Right?
I want to talk about. I want to talk about at least one more thing.
My opinions about the Nemesis system, real quick.
Oh, go ahead.
3 quick things, okay?
Hit me.
I'm gonna give 1 positive and 2 maybe negatives. Okay, maybe.
And then you'll end with a positive, right? Right?
Well, yeah.
Right.
Okay. My first positive. I love how they're reskinning the Forged soldiers to make them look sick. I love that they are making them look visually appealing. They all have different things. There's the blood one, the lightning one, the void one eventually, right? Void one and all that. I love that. I love it so much. I love how they look. It's amazing. Okay. It's amazing. Now, the next thing, this is a potentially negative thing. This is not a negative thing, but potentially negative. How does the Nemesis system interact with, of course, corruption scaling? If I am doing a Nemesis man at 1,000 corruption versus 100, are the rewards different? Do I get LP faster? Are the exalted items better? Do I have more chance to see exalted items? Is there going to be a meta where I go to 100 corruption to find Nemesis mans? Or maybe you see Nemesis mans more often in higher corruption? Because I do not want to live in a world, again, where farming low tier content is the appropriate way of going about it. I don't want to have to farm Nemesis mans at 100 corruption because at 1,000 corruption, they're significantly more difficult with no reward. Okay.
Love it. Okay.
That's a potential thing. I don't know because they didn't talk about it. The second problem is to put things in the egg, and you're going to be running through monos. You're going to have extra items in your inventory to put into the egg, right? So like, for instance, I might see Nemesis man. I want this and this item. Imagine you're trying to do that with like a bunch of Apathy's Maws, and then you have like 5 of them in your inventory trying to egg it, right?
Can I interrupt you? Do you want to keep going?
You may.
Okay.
Wait, is there a stash button?
So there's a stash button.
Oh, there is. Oh, thank God. Okay. See, that's the positive thing. They already thought of this problem. Baby. See, it's positive now because they already doesn't affect the egg outcomes. Okay, that is so bad. That is so bad. That's so bad. Does the corruption affect at least the frequency you see the Nemesis mans? At least
these are good questions. Good questions.
Like, please, I don't want to go back to where we were before, where farming low tier stuff was the way to go. I hate it so much because I'm not going to spend hundreds of hours on my character to go farm tier 1 maps. Okay. I don't want to do that. I hate it so much.
You forgot the
go ahead.
The third problem.
What's that?
Is the echo reset. That's the efficient way. Like if they've addressed that in cycle 2, like are people just going to be like resetting the echo over and over, like Side Trail or whatever?
Actually, that's another problem. But
like find one where you spawn right next to him and then
okay. So if you don't know, Perry, right now there is a bug, unintended interaction, whatever you want to call it, where there are specific monos in general where you can go in, see if there's a spawn near, go out, go in,
spawn for an exiled mage,
go in, or anything. Chest too.
Yeah. This is old
Please,
news.
for the love of God. I know. Okay, because like
that's how you get your Nemesis, 3LP Mad Alchemist ladle.
Yeah, and like, can they please fix that? I like this being able to leave the mono and re-roll everything in the mono is starting to cause a lot of problems. I hope like they eventually. Yeah, I do not like it either. It has a lot of problems in terms of farming stuff. It has a lot of problems in terms of balance where like if I was smart, I could just literally fight like crabs and spiders all
At
the way
2000
to
corruption, sure. Yeah, like you see one diamond matron and you just leave the echo.
Yeah.
Because you're a coward.
Well, no, you're being efficient, and that's the problem is we're ARPG players, and you don't want to make the degenerate ways to be efficient because we will do it. It doesn't matter. We will ruin the game for ourselves.
I do hate having fun. You're right.
Yes.
I'm going to link one more thing in Twitch chat, and I'm going to bring it up as a topic of conversation. So this is a specific 4-image URL that only has the 4 unique items that were spoiled on Tuesday's post. So I can link this in, I guess I can't really link this well in Discord, but you know what? I know Frozen's in Twitch chat as well, so I'm going to rely on you two to both already have this image. We've got 4 unique items. We have a 2-ended maze that lowers your attack speed and movement speed. We have a body armor that says % chance to take no damage. We have a scepter that makes Void Cleave not have a weapon requirement. And we have a quiver
that doesn't have glancing blow on it.
So which let's talk about like one. I want to talk about one of these items. We don't have to talk about all 4. Which are we feeling 2-ended maces today? Are we feeling taking no damage?
About Abarath's command because I think it's the most diverse item of the bunch.
I'll let that be your vote. Frozen, what do you want to vote for?
I was gonna vote hammer, but I feel like that's the obvious one.
Oh, I like the hammer. Am I the deciding votes? You know what? You're our guest. We can talk about Warpath later because I know Dread's like, ooh, Warpath.
Mm-hmm.
Let's talk about.
I mean, I like the hammer too. We didn't talk about the hammer.
The hammer is kind of thick.
More interesting.
It's a 2-handed mace, which I know I also forgot that they existed in last Epoch. It's a 2-handed mace that gives you a ton of penetration against all resistances with melee damage. And then every time you use a melee attack, you gain a stack of a buff. You get 15% more damage per stack of that buff, less attack and cast speed per stack of that buff, less movement speed per stack of that buff, and then you lose all stacks when you use evade, dodge roll, whatever you want to call it. It also has another more damage multiplier on top of this. This is a thick weapon, and I cannot wait to see. When I look at new unique items, like I run these build contests to encourage people to find new unique items and use them in weird ways. This item is already on my radar. I want to see what people do with this. It's big.
Thick.
It's thick. I love that you can't use it with Frostclaw. More melee damage per stack. I'm so sorry, Frozen.
Sad.
What do you want to do with the What do you want to do with the hammer?
Oh, listen. Frozen first. I'll wait.
Yeah. What do you want to do with the hammer?
Okay, I've wanted for as long as I played the game for Forge Strike to be a thing that exists.
It's not going to be a thing with this thing. I'm sorry.
I know. That's what really makes me sad. I like played it the other day just to like screw around, and I was like, wow, this is like actually the worst thing ever.
Yeah, it's 4 years old at this point. It needs help.
There's a usable Forge Strike build. You know, it does stuff.
Usable Forge Strike build, more like a Rive build with a pane of code on it.
Yep, that's exactly what it is. Listen, so somebody in Twitch chat pointed something out to me, and I'm gonna echo that. So with Event Horizon, it lowers your attack speed, and there's a node in Shield Rush, which Shield Rush, your best friend and mine, Dread. There's a node that says you deal less damage per increased attack speed.
Does that make you deal more damage?
It makes you deal more damage if you have negative attack speed.
Oh, that's baby. So dumb.
We're gonna Shield Rush
that way.
Apparently he tested it already. Yo, that sounds like a big bonk, bonk, bonk. That's the sound effect that I can't wait to see.
My thing with Event Horizon, what I want to try with it is I want to try Channeled Healing Hands.
Oh, because it ignores, version. Sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And what I love about the hammer, and there's 2 things I love about the hammer. First things off, I love that they're finally giving in, and they've decided that if they're not going to give hammers or spears, no synergy outside of like specific nodes on the tree, like very specific ones, right? Like axes and swords and all that get all the love, right? That they're just gonna make the unique hammers OP as shit.
Yeah.
I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Because I like that. And the second thing I appreciate about the hammer is the dilation stacks are not timed. So
I want to hold down Alt on this item and see what the helper text says.
No, it's already been confirmed.
I know, but like I'm scared. Like really, like infinite duration. Like you could just have 0 movement speed for the rest of your life.
Yeah, but like the thing is like you get to choose when it happens because the evade, right?
But that design almost sounds good. Like surely there's a catch.
I know.
Surely there's a catch.
The catch to it is it's a two-handed hammer. That's the catch.
I knew there'd be a catch.
Like there's no base crit on it. It's item level 80, so you're gonna have to like get around that stuff. But like, it's well worth it.
I think it's awesome. It's the kind of melee weapon that makes me want to play a melee build. I hope that I find defenses somehow when I play that melee build. But it looks fucking cool. So
especially since Titan Heart's getting nerfed because of someone in this.
I'm so sorry for getting Titan Heart. It's not confirmed.
Unfortunate. Not confirmed. I mean,
it's not confirmed.
I'll blame you, even if it happens like a year from now. I'll still blame you.
Oh, thanks. All right, Frozen. What are you doing with Event Horizon, the thick as hell two-handed maze?
I don't know, maybe a racing strike or something. I haven't really played a whole lot of Sentinel, so I want to figure something out. There's the flat damage affixes.
To be Sentinel, it could be Harvest if you want to like do no damage.
Well, no. So we talked about other things that make use of like not caring about their attack speed scaling.
Use Chaos Bolts.
We talked. That's interesting. That actually is interesting. Damn. Fuck, that's interesting.
See?
What I meant to say is...
You're the one that made me play the Leviathan Carver version. I'm going to like bully you until you play the Event Horizon version. Yeah. Perry, play this version. Yeah.
Maybe I will.
It's your turn to play the bad skills.
We were talking about Druid Swarmblade form with like the Locust Swarm. It's like a melee dot that exists around you in a big AoE. And like this thing looks like it might be able to use that well.
Aftershock dots, Maul, Tempest Strike plus EQ.
Sure.
Because Tempest Strike has so much attack speed.
It's kind of deceptive how many ideas you can have with this thing. Because like it's got the payoff. It's got a huge amount of more damage in it. This makes me want to play all kinds of weird melee builds.
And the beautiful thing, okay, I want to point out to you, what's cool about this item is let's assume you never get to 10 stacks of dilation because you hate fun. Let's assume you just get to 2 stacks of dilation.
Still good.
That's still 30% more damage on the 55% pen and the 13% more, right?
It's good. It's still good for sure.
Yeah. You don't have to actually use it for the memes. Like you don't have to go like Smelter's Wrath specifically is one that comes out on this. Like you can do it with Smelter's Wrath and do like big hammer, but like still like you don't have to actually use it for the meme tier. Even 3 stacks is enough to like make you do enough damage.
You can pre-stack it too, right? Like if you're fighting Jorah, you can stack it up in
the enemy. You have to hit the enemy. So you can do that in the zone before maybe, but you have to like deal with the less movement speed. So you're just like, walking slowly up to Jorah. It's like, Jorah, come to bargain.
Sometimes buffs persist between zones and sometimes they don't. I think they're not supposed to for the most part, but we'll see about that.
Yeah. Let's be real though. Who cares about Event Horizon when we got World Splitter?
All right. Listen, you've mentioned World Splitter enough. Do you have a link that I can read out loud?
Yeah, here you go. I'll send it to you.
Put it in Twitch chat if you would.
World Splitter.
We'll talk about one more unique item, and then I'm going to.
I like that this patch is becoming the appreciation for two-handed melee Andes. Would it be very ironic that they nerf Titan Heart this patch when they're adding these items?
Yes, completely. All right, so this is an item that only got teased like 4 hours ago on the dev stream. It was not in the Tuesday post. It's called World Splitter. I guess we'll have to make sure we put this in the description of the video as well. So it's a two-handed axe. It's a bardiche, which is my favorite because bardiche means it has a bleed implicit, which works well with Rive currently. So this has some good melee void damage on it. It has plus increased area per 1 mana cost of your skill. So the higher the mana cost of your skill, the more AoE you get. Awesome. It has plus 0.4
base
base
critical strike chance
for melee attacks per mana cost. So if you have a mana cost of 10 on your melee attack, this is going to give you plus 4 critical strike chance, which is cool. It's quite good.
By the way, I'm really happy that they're not doubling down on the let's get rid of base crit for no reason thing. Thank God. Continue.
It's from a long time ago.
I know.
This thing also has plus melee crit multi per 10 maximum mana. So you could build 1,000 mana and get
100% crit multi. That is a relevant amount.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. This is not like increased crit multi. It's just like it's
just flat. It's flat.
Just flat for crit. Yeah. Is there any source of increase? I think there's increased crit multi somewhere.
There's the one at the top of Rune Master.
Sure, you're right. I think there's like one other source of percent crit multi somewhere, but yeah, very seldom. And then this item, of course, also has mana regeneration and increased mana. So it's cool. It's got like some
mana. A hefty amount of increased mana, by the way.
That's 35% increased mana. It's like a mana stacking, two-handed, big mana cost melee attack thing. Are we using this with EQ?
You are using it with a racing strike. What you're doing is you're going up in the upper right of a racing strike. You're grabbing the nodes that reduce its cooldown but increase its mana cost significantly. Get 100 mana cost a racing strike. Run the void well thing. And then since it's an axe, you can go grab the 100% increased area while wielding an axe. You can get LP on this and then get like the percent melee area. And then you're going to hit the entire screen, and everything from 2 like screens away are going to get hit by your racing strike. And then on bosses, you're going to swap to Apathy's Mob because you actually like killing things.
And then for bosses, we'll use a real weapon. All right.
I mean, it's not wrong.
That's cool. Yeah. That's a great idea. I don't mind it.
Like, who cares about damage when you kill everything in like a 5-mile radius, you know?
I tried Erasing Strike recently, basically for the first time, and it was good. It was legitimately like fun, you know, if you're building it the right way.
It was good after the Void Essence thing. Before it was not.
Sure. But like once you get, you know, the mana stuff online, like it's good. It's smooth leveling. I'm surprised by it.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. So as we start to wrap up here, we're about an hour and a half into the podcast. I'm going to offer one more question and see if it spirals into something else. But Frozen, I know that you said earlier that you have about 500 hours, maybe even 600 or 700, 800 in one build that you played. You were playing some Frostclaw Rune Master. Is this the kind of thing where you're going to be like the Frostclaw Rune Master guy? Or are you going to pivot and deep dive into a different build instead?
Well, I feel like to some degree, people kind of expect me to like have the Frostclaw ideas at this point. Because like a lot of the other people that were playing the build, like they're not really playing anymore. Like there was Bina, I think, was doing the cold one or whatever, and there was a few other variants.
I plan on revisiting it on 1.1 after all the nerfs and changes, so we can see what to do with it then.
Yeah, I think same here. Like I think it's important for me to try and make it good again once it's bad, just for like my own sanity.
You say that like as if it wasn't good before all of this. Perry and I know it's been good for a lot, ever since it was introduced. It's like it's so freaking good, and it's like they buffed it, and then all this all this stuff with like it was funny because like I remember Perry and we were talking about your build specifically, and I was bringing it up, and we were like, everyone's like, "Oh my God, Frostclaw's good now." And it's like, it's always been good.
It's only been out for like 1 patch, and now 2. Yeah,
it was kind of funny. I was playing the Frostclaw, and like I just threw on some different gear. Like I didn't even bother with Enigma. I threw Velatrias just for funsies.
Yeah,
and like I was still able to do like over 2,000 corruption just with like hit-based Frostclaw. Like it's just that strong of an ability that you get all that free ward from hit and area use and skill use and crit. Just everything scales, and yeah, it doesn't even matter what you do.
Man, I should play Frostclaw.
Frostbite's
so
really
what
good right now.
what about if we what if you weren't a content creator? What if you weren't worrying about the audience? Well, what are you gonna play the same build for
Well,
another
what you
800
could do
hours?
is you could just play in Legacy and keep it updated for the next patch, and then play in the new patch with something different, right?
Yeah, I think the plan is to start not legacy, like just play like normally, and then try and do the pinnacle boss, assuming I'm not going to be first, and then go back to legacy because I have all the gear to put builds together and stuff and test things and whatever. It's just a lot
and then
quicker.
eventually your stuff will move back to Legacy, so it's not like as if you're wasting your time.
Yeah, exactly.
I love it. Listen, I'm gonna go play whatever kind of spark charge build exists. If there's any new spark charge build, like that's probably my league starter, right?
There's Frostclaw Spark Charge right now.
Yeah, I want a
that.
new one though. That's the old spark charge build.
I have one for you if you want one. You can test it for me. You can be my
Whatever
guinea
you were
pig.
about to say is gonna be the most cooked thing I've heard all evening. Sure,
What do you
hit
mean
me.
cooked?
No,
It
no.
comes from Amaranthi.
Yeah, what is it?
Oh,
What's...
you just play the stupid Shatterstrike version.
That's not new.
I mean,
It's underrepresented.
yeah. You haven't played it, have you?
Yeah, but
It's
I also
new to
hate
you.
Shatterstrike. I really don't enjoy playing Shatterstrike.
Well, then phooey on you. Then.
Yeah, you know what? I will accept the fooey. That's fine.
You asked for it.
I like playing COF because that's the way that I enjoy Last Epoch. I like not playing Shatterstrike because I don't like playing it. And I love making fun of Warpath because it makes you laugh.
You could play Explosive Trap again, but you can use shadows because like apparently they're supposed to work.
Done. I'll do that.
Get a confirmation. It is supposed to work like that.
Good.
You can use shadows, even though things haven't been updated. But whatever.
I don't. I remember the complaint that you had, but man, you were wondering
I was
whether
just
shadows
confused at the time because
the text box wasn't updated.
Perry,
You've been playing Last Epoch for so long, and you're surprised that the text box wasn't updated?
No, Perry. The thing is I can refute you with that. I'd be like, I've been playing Last Epoch long enough to know that like the game's never in a non-buggy state.
That's true.
So
That's true.
Like when I see that I can use shadows like that, and so all of the promotional material, every single thing we ever saw about Falconer, right? We didn't see a single Falconer use shadows for the traps. Okay,
True.
not a single one. Okay, so that is not my fault.
Got it. All right, we have one more question from a member of Twitch chat saying, which of you three are participating in the lore hunt? So
I don't even know what it is.
So they announced that in addition to whatever naturally arising community event will arise for the pinnacle boss, like world's first kind of thing, they're gonna have some kind of lore hunt that starts a few days after the patch drops. Do we have any information about it? You gotta
Apparently
find
not.
the lore in the game.
Like they didn't. Oh, here it is.
Yeah.
No. Yeah. It's literally nothing. It's just July 3rd.
Keep your eyes on the forums.
Yeah.
July 3rd. We'll tell you more information about how to participate.
Okay, I thought so. We have no idea what it is.
Cool.
All right. Cool.
Yeah, I'm in. I'm 100% doing the lore hunt. Totally. Because I know I'm not gonna be the world's first. Because might as well do something else instead, baby.
Mm-hmm.
If it's picking up pieces of lore on the ground, that sounds lame. If it's anything similar to like the Lost Spriggan that got added into the game, and then I know Gavrin Gaming is the one who's in Twitch chat asking about this because he's big on lore for Last Epoch. If it's more Easter egg hunting, that does sound fun, but I'm probably alone in saying that.
I think it's fun. Like this is like the kind of thing that I would want them to like post a week before the patch.
Sure, and that's what they're doing too.
No. I mean, like it would happen now instead of like 1.1 where everyone's trying to go and kill Aberoth or whatever, right? But it's like fine. It's like
maybe the Easter egg requires killing Aberoth. Oh.
Ooh.
Oh. All right, so we're about at time here. Dread and Frozen, is there any last tidbit that you want to chuck on to the end of this podcast? Any last little conversation?
I just want to say thank you, Frozen, for joining us. As it's always nice to add people to the community, especially people who work as hard as you do. I appreciate people who work very hard and make quality content. So it's nice to see other people joining us in that regard. As I will say, 1.0 definitely. I'll leave it at that.
What the hell?
I'll leave it at
Hey,
that.
Frozen.
Yeah.
Frozen, thanks for being here. I appreciate you, buddy. It's been nice chatting with you both on the podcast and off the podcast. I like that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, absolutely. It's great to be here.
For everyone watching live, thank you so much for joining us on twitch.tv/PerryThePig. We host this about once weekly. We'll be getting back to our weekly cadence to have this podcast to bring you more news, to talk about more builds, talk about more stuff regarding Last Epoch. If you're watching on either YouTube or on Spotify after the fact, make sure to let us know where you're watching it so we can make sure that your viewing experience is as good as possible. For myself, for Frozen, for my co-host Dread, thank you so much for being here. We'll see you next time.